Hey everybody, Mrs. Bixler here, and we are continuing our conversation about inequalities. So you know right now that if you have an inequality that looks something like this, x plus 7 is greater than 10, you would treat just the way you would solve a normal equation. So you're going to try and isolate your variable term. This is a nice little one-stepper. You subtract 7 from the left, you subtract 7 from the right, you slash out that 7, and you're left with x is greater than 3. So we know that x can be greater than 3. It could be 7 or 3.5 or 21 or 159, whatever. I could change this. So I could have it be greater than or equal to 10. So then my inequality just stays the same, whatever it says in that initial problem. And then if I were graphing these out, I would just do my little graph. I'd get my 3. I would do a closed circle, and I'd shimmy everything to the right. So we feel super comfortable about those, which is fantastic. So we're going to turn it up a notch today. And we are going to talk about solving trickier inequalities. So this should look pretty familiar. If I changed this little inequality sign to an equal sign, you'd be like, snooze, Miss Bixler, give me something harder. This would just be a two-step equation. So we are going to solve this the exact same way we would solve a two-step equation. So go ahead, pause the video, and do it on your own and see how it goes. All right, we are back. So hopefully you decided to isolate your variable term first, subtract 7, slash it, subtract 7. So we are left with 2x is greater than 8. And then we've got a one-step equation here. So I'm going to divide by 2 and divide by 2, and I'm left with x is greater than 4. We draw our little number line, a 0, a 4. Because it's not greater than or equal to, I leave it as an open circle, shimmy everything to the right, and you're done. X is greater than 4, and I can graph it as well on that number line. Excellent. So we don't want you to be intimidated by these little two-step inequalities. They are the exact same thing. And same thing goes for a three-stepper. Pause the video, do this on your own, and let's come back together and see if you got it right. All right, we are back. So here's what I did first for this three-step inequality. I want to get all of my x's on the same side. You might have done something a little different first, and that's okay. So 3x minus x is 2x plus 6 is greater than or equal to negative 6. So I don't touch that inequality sign. It just stays the same. I bring it down the way I bring down my equal sign if it were in an equation. So then I want to solve this little two-stepper here, subtract 6, slash this sucker out. I'm left with 2x is greater than or equal to negative 12. We've got a nice little one-stepper, divide by 2, and I get x greater than or equal to negative 6. Whoop, and went weird. All right, and then as you know, we draw our little number line. I get a negative 6 here. Do a closed circle, and because it's greater than, I shimmy everything to the right. So again, you should not be intimidated by these a little bit harder inequalities. There is one way that solving an inequality is different than solving an equation. There is one rule, and here it is. So we've got a nice little two-stepper right here, and I'm going to solve it just the way we were solving our other ones. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. I'm left with negative 2x is less than 6. So now I'm going to isolate my variable, And so the way I do that is I divide by negative 2. And I'm going to do the same thing on the right-hand side. Slash it, I'm left with x on the left, and 6 divided by negative 2, I know is negative 3. Here is the one thing that is different. Because I just divided by a negative here, this is huge. I just divided by a negative. I need to flip my inequality sign. So that means if it is less than here, it is going to be greater than in my answer. And you're probably like, okay, what a random rule. But if Mrs. Bixler says it's right, then I guess it's right. But I'm going to tell you why. So here is why. I've got an inequality here. 12 is greater than 9. So I know that's true. 12 is greater than 9. Great. If I add or subtract a positive number, to both sides of this inequality, I'm good. Watch what happens. If I add 3 to the left, I'm going to try and keep it balanced and add 3 to the right. So 12 plus 3 is 15. 9 plus 3 is 12. Oh, that stays the same. I had my greater than sign. So 15 is still greater than 12. I added 3 to both sides. I haven't changed that inequality. The same thing is true if you multiply or divide by a positive number. So I'm going to divide by -3. Sorry, +3 on both sides. So let's divide both sides by +3. So 12 divided by 3 is 4, and 9 divided by 3 is 3. Oh, well, look, before I had the left-hand side was greater than the right-hand side. The same is true here. 4 is still greater than 3. So if you multiply or divide by a positive number, you're not changing the value of that inequality at all. But something happens when you multiply or divide by a negative number. So now I'm going to divide both sides by -3. So I divide the left-hand side by -3. I'm going to divide the right-hand side by -3. 12 divided by -3 is -4. And 9 divided by -3 is -3. So if I think about a number line here, I've got a 0, and I've got -3 here, and then -4 there. -3 is closer to 0. So now look what happens to our inequality sign. It has flipped. So do you remember our rules about when bad things happen to good people and when good things happen to bad people? Whenever we had one negative sign, it always changed the value of whatever that answer was. So negatives are really, really strong. And in fact, if we multiply or divide by a negative number, we flips the value of that inequality. So let's try this one to practice. So right here, I've got a nice little two-step equation. Inequality. So I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. I'm left with -2x is less than or equal to 8. Nice. I got a little delay on my pen. Apologies. So I slashed out my 1 there. So then I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to divide by a -2. The second you divide in an inequality by a negative number, siren should be going off in your brain. Whew, 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 whew. I know I'm dividing by a negative number here. I'm going to be left with x on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, I'm going to be left with -4. But because I just divided by a -2, remember, a -2, that means I have to flip this sign. So my final answer is going to be x is greater than or equal to -4. All right, I'm going to have you try to do this one on your own. So pause the video and then come back when you're done and let's see how you do. All right, we are back. So I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides, and I'm left with -3x is greater than 10. A little messy, but it's not, I promise. Watch. I'm going to divide the left-hand side by -3. I'm going to divide the right-hand side by -3. I have just divided by a negative number. So on the left-hand side, I'm left with an x. And on the right-hand side, because 10 over -3 can't really simplify at all, you can just leave it as -10 over 3 or -10 over 3 or 10 over -3, whatever. I'm good either way. But you know the big thing here, because we have just divided by a negative, the big thing is here we have to flip our sign. So our final answer is going to be that x is less than -10 thirds. And you're done. All right. So let's do this one. Go ahead and pause the video and then come back and let's see how it went. All right, we are back. So hopefully you saw that this was just a one-step equation. So I'm going to divide the left-hand side by -4, and I'm going to divide the right-hand side by -4. So on the left, I'm left with x, and on the right, -5 divided by -4. Well, I know 5 over 4, those numbers are kind of messy, so I can leave them. But remember, I've got a negative divided by a negative. So when bad things happen to bad people, what happens? You're heartless. That's what happens. it gives us a positive. Remember, there are no such thing as bad people, just people who do bad things. But still, so when you've got two negatives, you know you're going to get a positive here. So my answer on the right is just going to be 5/4. But remember, we just divided by a negative. Negative, 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 negative. We divided by a negative, so I know that I have to flip this sign. So x is going to be greater than 5/4. That is your final answer. X is greater than 5/4. Cool? All right, let's do one more and then I'll let you go. So pause the video, try it on your own, and then come back. All right, we're back. We see our friends, the parentheses. We haven't seen them in so long. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to distribute everything inside of the parentheses. So I get negative 3x minus 6 is less than or equal to 7. We've got a nice little two-stepper here. Add 6 on the left, add 6 on the right. So I'm left with negative 3x is less than or equal to 6 plus 7 is 13. All right. So we haven't done anything funky, nothing different. But now we are about to. We are about to divide both sides by negative 3. Negative, negative. Things are going off in your brain. Pew, 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 pew. I don't know if that's like fighter pilot. I have no idea. But I just divided both sides by a negative. And so this is what I know. I need to flip my sign. So my final answer here is going to be that x is greater than or equal to negative 13/3. And you're done. So go ahead, try the work on your own. You're going to crush it. And thanks for watching. Feel free to rewind and rewatch parts if you need it. You've got this. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.